23rd of January, and I'm Jerusha Sukhthia. Now, for the last couple of days, we've been following President Jacob Zuma as he leads a delegation at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland. But what does this mean? What does this mean for South Africa? And what is our president trying to do in Switzerland? I'm joined in studio by political economist Daniel Silk, who's going to help us make sense of it all. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be with you.
Now, let's go back to the very beginning, and won't you explain to us what is the World Economic Forum and what are all these world leaders trying to do in Davos, Switzerland?
Well, Davos has become something of a meeting ground for major global political and economic and business figures over the last decade or more for that matter. It's become the de facto planning point for the year ahead. A group of people headed up by Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum, a think tank who has been able to market itself as a global leader in determining the way forward for the world, for the global economy. It's an interesting gathering because it does bring together the world's rich and the world's poorer leaders. It's not just an elitist group of people, but certainly it has a preponderance of top-notch business people, corporate entities, think tank people who are all associated or at least invite themselves to this particular gathering. In fact, if you've got enough cash, you can necessarily participate and become part of the World Economic Forum. It's an important gathering and an important gathering for most global leaders to be at, and in particular for somebody like President Zuma as an African representative and of course one of the representative of the BRICS group of nations to be there.
Right, so there's no doubt that it's absolutely vital that he does attend. So let's look at some of the things that he's been speaking about. We'll kick it off with him explaining to the international community really about load shedding, our very South African problem. He's saying that South Africa's infrastructure is not geared up for 11 million households. Of course, this is something we know in South Africa. Why is he explaining it at the World Economic Forum?
Well, look, I think the job of any president or head of state attending the World Economic Forum is really to be a front-of-house public relations person. That's really probably the number one reason why heads of state go and why they participate in the various panel discussions. So it's fairly obvious, I think, that President Zuma will want to put the best foot forward for South Africa. Now, this may include obfuscating the fact that our power problems in the country have not only been as a result of the apartheid years, but certainly our power problems are as a result of insufficient management, oversight over the last 20 years in particular. But putting the country's best foot forward, giving the world a reason to consider South Africa as an investment destination is critically important for President Zuma. So one would need to cut him some slack, I suppose, on this issue of how he presents South Africa's case to the WEF body and to other potential global investors by making it look as though our problems are from the pre-1994 era, by taking the heat off the post-1994 deficiencies that clearly are within our own making within South Africa. At least I think Zuma is saying, look, we know we've got problems. These problems are a result of a growing economy, of rolling out electricity to many more subscribers than we ever had before as a result of apartheid preventing people in South Africa from benefiting from the real economy. Understand that we're working towards an improvement in our power grid and take that into account when you consider us as an investment destination. It's very much a PR spin message coming out from the president. We could criticize it, but I think for a global audience, it's probably what is necessary. Although I will say that President Zuma will be unable to convince reluctant or suspicious investors to come into South Africa unless he is absolutely honest about all of the facets that affect our economy, including deficiencies in the current monitoring system of our infrastructure. And he will have to be honest with these investors as well. They won't just be influenced by excuses that it is in the pre-apartheid days that really has made our current problems.